I've recorded a teaser episode for this podcast, and while I was working on it, I realized a couple of mistakes I'd made with the recording and the whole process. In this episode, I want to take you behind the scenes and talk you through how this project actually started, the steps I've taken, and some of the rookie mistakes along the way. If you've ever thought about starting your own projects, or you're simply curious how something like this gets built from scratch, this one is for you. The big idea is that I'm learning in public. I'm not going to wait until everything is perfect before I press publish. You're hearing this as I figure it out. And that's part of the experience. This podcast idea has been brewing in my head for quite some time. I couldn't tell you exactly when it started. It feels more like lots of little seeds planted over the years. I've always liked the idea of keeping a diary or a journal, but I never stick to it. I don't enjoy writing in a notebook, and even voice diaries don't last long for me. A podcast felt like a different kind of journal, one where there's a real person on the other side expecting something from me. That sense of obligation helps me show up and hopefully add some value to someone's life. I am a teacher, but I didn't want to create another set of formal lessons. I'm curious. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't have a huge social circle and my schedule is full, so having deep conversations about ideas doesn't happen often. This podcast felt like a way to reach out, connect with people who are also curious, and build a small community around that. Once the idea felt a bit more real, I decided not to overthink it. I recorded a very simple raw audio explaining the concept and sent it to one of my English students to see what she thought. It wasn't meant for release, just a test. Does this make sense? And would anyone actually want to listen to this? Her reaction was positive, which gave me the first little push I needed. After that, I tried re-recording the idea, this time experimenting with video as well. I wanted to see how it felt to be on camera and what the quality would be like. I shared that with her too, and again, the feedback was encouraging. That was the moment when the project shifted from random idea in my head to maybe this is something I should actually build. I bought a microphone so I could record in better quality and started working on my teaser and first episode. Very quickly I realized I could spend an unlimited amount of time tweaking one episode. At some point, I had to accept that if this was ever going to exist in the real world, I needed to stop polishing and release it. While editing the teaser, I noticed my mic gain had been set way too low. The recording level of my voice was really quiet. On top of that, when I recorded it, I was ill. My nose was blocked and it definitely wasn't my best voice. For a while, I thought I would have to re-record the whole thing. In the end, I decided to keep it. I like what I'd said, and I didn't know when I would feel 100% again. And I didn't want it to start sounding rehearsed. I'd rather have an imperfect but honest teaser than a polished one that doesn't feel like me. As long as you can hear and understand me, I'm happy. Once I had recordings, the next problem appeared. how do I actually put this out into the world? Recording is only one part of the process. I started researching podcast hosting sites, places where you upload your show and they push it out to different platforms. I tested an account, uploaded a sample episode, and then deleted it immediately because I didn't feel ready for people to see it yet. As I was filling in the hosting profile, I realized I couldn't just upload audio and walk away. I needed some kind of brand, a clear name and image, and probably I needed a website to live alongside the audio. I began playing with WordPress templates, building a site and sketching out a brand, colors, logo ideas, a mission statement, the real purpose of this podcast. WordPress is powerful and has great templates, but it took a lot of time, and without a strong technical background, I was constantly bumping into limitations. I never felt completely satisfied with how it looked or how it worked. During that time, I was also thinking about what I wanted to publish. Not just episodes, but notes, study materials, reflections, all the things that could support listeners who are learning through English. And that brought me to another good question: quality. Good quality usually needs some financial support, even if it's just covering tools and hosting. For now, I can manage on my own. But it would be wonderful if in future, people who genuinely find value here could support the project, completely by choice, of course. With that in mind, I started building a simple support system into the online framework. I created a support page on the site and tested a few options like Buy Me a Coffee, a Bitcoin wallet, and the bulletin support feature on VK for people in Russia. The idea is not to pressure anyone, but to give listeners a way to help if they really want to see this grow. At the same time, I realized that support and community don't come from a website alone. I needed places where people could actually follow and interact. That's when I created the Telegram channel, the Instagram page, and a VK page as a home base here in Russia. Somewhere along the way, I had already recorded a better quality teaser and an introductory episode. Once most of the online framework was in place, I went back to editing those recordings and discovered yet another mistake. The microphone settings still weren't where they needed to be. That sent me down the YouTube rabbit hole. I started teaching myself how to use GarageBand properly, focusing on things that come built into my Mac: overlays, volume control, EQ, fades, and basic mixing. It's exciting, but it also takes much longer the first time you do anything. The good news is that each time I repeat a step, it gets faster. The goal is to reach the point where I don't need a tutorial for every tiny adjustment. Even after all that work, I still wasn't fully happy with my WordPress site. Then, while listening to an interview about side hustles, I heard someone talking about building apps and websites using Replit and AI agents. That caught my attention. I tried it, and with just a few prompts, I had a new site generated from scratch. I was honestly impressed. It took a fraction of the time I'd spent fighting with templates, and I liked the result more. I ended up buying a subscription and connecting my own domain, which made the project feel even more real and official. After redesigning the site this way, it felt like I'd finally moved past the messy setup phase. From that point on, it was mostly refining details around the supporting infrastructure and focusing on actually creating episodes. Feeling more confident, I decided to pitch the podcast idea to a second person. Someone I hope will become a kind of colleague in the English teaching space and a future guest. Again, the reaction was positive. That gave me extra confirmation that this experiment might be worth continuing and that there could be space for collaboration in future episodes. With the framework in place, I returned to editing, started recording this second episode, and noticed that new ideas were already brewing for a third and even a fourth episode. At the same time, I'm creating the supporting learner materials, notes, reflections, and other resources that go with the audio. My biggest fear in all of this is time. This is a part-time project. I have a full-time teaching job, part-time university studies, music lessons as a hobby, and I want to be more involved in private tutoring. I'd love to release one episode a week, but realistically, for now, it might look more like working in batches and scheduling releases every 2 weeks. So there is enough breathing room to prepare the next set. The more I work on it, the more excited I feel. It's a lot, but it feels like the good kind of a lot. One thing I am still not completely settled on is the intro and outro music. I am using something for now, but I'm not sure it will stay forever. From watching YouTube tutorials, I've realized that I can do so much more with GarageBand, like creating my own loops and little jingles. At some point, I'd love to experiment and make a custom sound for the podcast, but that can sit on the future learning list for now. The important thing is that I'm learning and improving. My hope is that you'll be able to hear that progress over time, not just in the content, but in the sound and the way everything fits together. This podcast is very much a work in progress. I'm starting from where I am, with what I have, making mistakes, and learning as I go. If I wait until everything is perfect, it will never happen, and I don't want that to be the story. You don't have to be perfect to start. If you'd like to follow along on this journey, you can find me on the website, on Telegram, on Instagram, and on VK. I'd really like to hear from you, your questions, your feedback, and the topic you're curious about or struggling with in your own learning. Maybe that can shape future episodes. That's all for now. More to come. In the meantime, stay curious and come experiment with me.